Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
A label written or printed on paper, cardboard, or plastic that is attached to something to indicate its owner, nature, price, etc. Go after with the intent to catch. A small piece of cloth or paper. Attach a tag or label to. A game in which one child chases the others. The one who is caught becomes the next chaser. A label associated with something for the purpose of identification. Semantic tags were attached in order to identify different meanings of the word. Provide with a name or nickname. Sports. The act of touching a player in a game, which changes their status in the game. Supply, blank verse or prose, with rhymes. Touch a player while he is holding the ball. A label written or printed on paper, cardboard, or plastic that is attached to something to indicate its owner, nature, price, etc. The appropriate or desirable thing. This car could be just the ticket for a small family. A list of candidates nominated by a political party to run for election to public offices. Issue a ticket or a fine to as a penalty. Move your car or else you will be ticketed. A commercial document showing that the holder is entitled to something, as to ride on public transportation or to enter a public entertainment. A summons issued to an offender, especially to someone who violates a traffic regulation. Provide with a ticket for passage or admission. Cut a furrow into a columns. Go after with the intent to catch. The policeman chased the mugger down the alley. United States politician and jurist who served as Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, 1808 to 1873. Pursue someone sexually or romantically. The act of pursuing in an effort to overtake or capture. A rectangular metal frame used in letterpress printing to hold together the pages or columns of composed type that are printed at one time. Cut a groove into. Chase silver. Go after with the intent to catch. Pursue someone sexually or romantically. A smooth textured sausage of minced beef or pork, usually smoked, often served on a bread roll. Go after with the intent to catch. The dog chased the rabbit. A hinged catch that fits into a notch of a ratchet to move a wheel forward or prevent it from moving backward. Someone who is morally reprehensible. You dirty dog. A dull, unattractive, unpleasant girl or woman. She's a real dog. A member of the genus Canis, probably descended from the common wolf, that has been domesticated by man since prehistoric times, occurs in many breeds. The dog barked all night. Metal supports for logs in a fireplace. Informal term for a man. You lucky dog. Go after with the intent to catch. Go after with the intent to catch. Go in search of or hunt for. A spy employed to follow someone and report their movements. The rear part of a ship. Go after with the intent to catch. Any projection that resembles the tail of an animal. The fleshy part of the human body that you sit on. The rear part of an aircraft. Remove or shorten the tail of an animal. The time of the last part of something. The tail of the storm. Remove the stalk of fruits or berries. The posterior part of the body of a vertebrate, especially when elongated and extending beyond the trunk or main part of the body. Usually plural, the reverse side of a coin that does not bear the representation of a person's head. Any road or path affording passage, especially a rough one. Computer science. One of the circular magnetic paths on a magnetic disk that serve as a guide for writing and reading data. Travel across or pass over. Go after with the intent to catch. The act of participating in an athletic competition involving running on a track. An endless metal belt on which tracked vehicles move over the ground. A course over which races are run. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. A distinct selection of music from a recording or a compact disc. The title track of the album. A line or route along which something travels or moves. The track of an animal. A bar or pair of parallel bars of rolled steel making the railway along which railroad cars or other vehicles can roll. A groove on a phonograph recording. A pair of parallel rails providing a runway for wheels. Carry on the feet and deposit. Track mud into the house. Make tracks upon. Observe or plot the moving path of something. Track a missile. To lag or linger behind. Go after with the intent to catch. Move, proceed, or walk draggingly or slowly. John trailed behind his classmates. Drag loosely along a surface. Allow to sweep the ground. The toddler was trailing his pants. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. The trail led straight to the perpetrator. A path or track roughly blazed through wild or hilly country. A track or mark left by something that has passed. There is a trail of blood. Hang down so as to drag along the ground. The bride's veiled trailed along the ground. Treat cruelly. A week at British universities during which side shows and processions of floats are organized to raise money for charities. Censure severely or angrily. The deputy ragged the prime minister. Harass with persistent criticism or carping. Newspaper with half-size pages. Music with a syncopated melody, usually for the piano. A small piece of cloth or paper. Cause annoyance in. Disturb, especially by minor irritations. A boisterous practical joke, especially by college students. Break into lumps before sorting. Rag or. Play in ragtime. Rag that old tune. A tiny or scarcely detectable amount. Tear into shreds. A small piece of cloth or paper. A small piece of cloth or paper. A small piece of cloth or paper. Trade name of a company that produces musical recordings. The artists and repertoire department of a recording label is responsible for finding new talent. Pronounce judgment on. They labeled him unfit to work here. Attach a tag or label to. Label these bottles. A brief description given for purposes of identification. The label modern is applied to many different kinds of architecture. An identifying or descriptive marker that is attached to an object. A radioactive isotope that is used in a compound in order to trace the mechanism of a chemical reaction. Assign a label to. Designate with a label. These students were labeled, learning disabled. Distinguish, an element or atom, by using a radioactive isotope or an isotope of unusual mass for tracing through chemical reactions. Distinguish, as a compound or molecule, by introducing a labeled atom. Celebrate by some ceremony or observation. The citizens mark the anniversary of the revolution with a march and a parade. Insert punctuation marks into. Establish as the highest level or best performance. Assign a grade or rank to, according to one's evaluation. Mark homework. Remove from a list. A symbol of disgrace or infamy. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain. A visible indication made on a surface. Some previous reader had covered the pages with dozens of marks. A person who is gullible and easy to take advantage of. A number or letter indicating quality, especially of a student's performance. She made good marks in algebra. A perceptible indication of something not immediately apparent, as a visible clue that something has happened. Something that exactly succeeds in achieving its goal. Hit the mark. An indication of damage. Formerly the basic unit of money in Germany. A distinguishing symbol. The owner's mark was on all the sheep. Apostle and companion of St. Peter, assumed to be the author of the second gospel. To accuse or condemn or openly or formally or brand as disgraceful. A marking that consists of lines that cross each other. Make small marks into the surface of. A reference point to shoot at. His arrow hit the mark. The shortest of the four Gospels in the New Testament. Put a check mark on or near or next to. Mark off the units. Be a distinctive feature, attribute, or trait, sometimes in a very positive sense. Attach a tag or label to. Notice or perceive. Mark my words. Mark with a scar. Make underscoring marks. A written or printed symbol, as for punctuation. His answer was just a punctuation mark. Designate as if by a mark. This sign marks the border. Make or leave a mark on. The scouts marked the trail. The impression created by doing something unusual or extraordinary that people notice and remember. It was in London that he made his mark. Go along with, often uninvited. Be later in time. Tuesday always follows Monday. Follow in or as if in pursuit. Her bad deed followed her and haunted her dreams all her life. Travel along a certain course. Follow the road. Keep informed. Follow, discover, or ascertain the course of development of something. We must follow closely the economic development is Cuba. Choose and follow, as of theories, ideas, policies, strategies or plans. She followed the feminist movement. Imitate in behavior. Take as a model. Teenagers follow their friends in everything. Keep to. Come as a logical consequence. Follow logically. It follows that your assertion is false. Follow with the eyes or the mind. She followed the men with the binoculars. Work in a specific place, with a specific subject, or in a specific function. Be the successor of. Carter followed Ford. Come after in time, as a result. A terrible tsunami followed the earthquake. Act in accordance with someone's rules, commands, or wishes. Perform an accompaniment to. The orchestra could barely follow the frequent pitch changes of the soprano. To be the product or result. Behave in accordance or in agreement with. Keep under surveillance. The police had been following him for weeks, but they could not prove his involvement in the bombing. Accept and follow the leadership or command or guidance of. Let's follow our great helmsman. Adhere to or practice. These people still follow the laws of their ancient religion. Be next. Mary plays best, with John and Sue following. Grasp the meaning. Can you follow her argument? To bring something about at a later time than. She followed dinner with a brandy. To travel behind, go after, come after. The ducklings followed their mother around the pond. Carry out or participate in an activity. Be involved in. She pursued many activities. Follow in or as if in pursuit. The police car pursued the suspected attacker. Go in search of or hunt for. Pursue a hobby. Carry further or advance. A separate part consisting of fabric. A separate part consisting of fabric. Take temporary possession of as a security, by legal authority. Create social or emotional ties. Be attached. Be in contact with. Become attached. The spider's thread attached to the window sill. Cause to be attached. A game enjoyed by children. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase. The call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of, a loan. Give the calls, to the dancers, for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication, with someone, by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The 1C conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge somebody to make good on a statement, charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. Indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. Order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal to in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports, the decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Look on as or consider. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Look on as or consider. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. They named their son David. Give or make a list of. Name individually. Give the names of. Give the name or identifying characteristics of. Refer to by name or some other identifying characteristic property. Many senators were named in connection with the scandal. Family based on male descent. He had no sons and there was no one to carry on his name. Determine or distinguish the nature of a problem or an illness through a diagnostic analysis. Charge with a function. Charge to be. She was named head of the committee. Identify as in botany or biology, for example. A defamatory or abusive word or phrase. A well-known or notable person. They studied all the great names in the history of France. Make reference to. His name was mentioned in connection with the invention. Create in charge with a task or function. A language unit by which a person or thing is known. His name really is George Washington. A person's reputation. He wanted to protect his good name. By the sanction or authority of. Halt in the name of the law. Mention and identify by name. Name your accomplices. The event of something coming in contact with the body. The act of putting two things together with no space between them. Arousing effect. His gratitude was simple and touching. A distinguishing style. This room needs a woman's touch. Make a more or less disguised reference to. Consume. She didn't touch her food all night. The event of something coming in contact with the body. He longed for the touch of her hand. Be relevant to. A suggestion of some quality. There was a touch of sarcasm in his tone. Have an effect upon. The act of putting two things together with no space between them. At his touch the room filled with lights. Be equal to in quality or ability. Your performance doesn't even touch that of your colleagues. A communicative interaction. He got in touch with his colleagues. A slight attack of illness. He has a touch of rheumatism. Affect emotionally. I was touched by your kind letter of sympathy. The faculty by which external objects or forces are perceived through contact with the body, especially the hands. Only sight and touch enable us to locate objects in the space around us. Tamper with. Don't touch my CDs. To extend as far as. The chair must not touch the wall. A slight but appreciable amount. This dish could use a touch of garlic. Be in direct physical contact with. Make contact. The two buildings touch. The sensation produced by pressure receptors in the skin. She likes the touch of silk on her skin. Color lightly. Cause to be in brief contact with. He touched his toes to the horse's flanks. Comprehend. He could not touch the meaning of the poem. Deal with. Usually used with a form of negation. I wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. Deftness in handling matters. He has a master's touch. Make physical contact with. Come in contact with. She never touched her husband. Perceive via the tactile sense. Helen Keller felt the physical world by touching people and objects around her. The act of soliciting money, as a gift or loan. He watched the beggar trying to make a touch. The feel of mechanical action. This piano has a wonderful touch. A piece of poetry. Compose rhymes. Correspondence in the sounds of two or more lines, especially final sounds. Be similar in sound, especially with respect to the last syllable. Hat and cat rhyme. Ice crystals forming a white deposit, especially on objects outside. Compose rhymes. Correspondence in the sounds of two or more lines, especially final sounds. Be similar in sound, especially with respect to the last syllable.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.